Welcome to James Joyce's divine and delirious comedy Finnegans Wake. In this episode, number 18, we'll hear Irish-Canadian actor and my good friend and colleague Richard Harte performing pages 86 to 92 from Chapter 4 of Joyce's last novel. I'm Adam Seelig, the director of the reading you'll soon hear. I want to thank the Toronto European Film Festival for recently screening the Strawberry Frolic excerpt from Chapter 3 of our Finnegans Wake film series. You can hear the audio of that excerpt in episode 14 of our podcast. And I want to thank Kenji Hayakawa, Yuda Imazeki, and Kaori Hirashige for screening our films at their terrific event in Tokyo last month. I'm honored and delighted to have been there for it in person. Last but not least, thank you to everyone in Toronto and Tokyo who attended these events. Finnegans Wake is a production of One Little Goat Theatre Company. For the next 5 years, One Little Goat will film and record all 17 chapters, roughly 30 hours, of Joyce's Finnegans Wake before live audiences in various locations, screening and releasing them along the way with the aim of completing the entire book in time for its 90th birthday, May 4th of 2029. One Little Goat Theatre Company is an official charity in Canada and the United States. If you'd like to support our work, please visit us online at www.onelittlegoat.org to make a charitable donation. To get in touch with us, you'll find our email address on One Little Goat Theatre Company's website, and we'd love to hear from you. The poster text for the 1992 American legal comedy My Cousin Vinny, starring Joe Pesci and Marisa Tomei, says the following. There have been many courtroom dramas that have glorified the great American legal system. This is not one of them. Likewise, today's excerpt from Finnegans Wake is no advertisement for Ireland's halls of justice. What you're about to hear in the dream language of the Wake is more theatre than trial, as the court calls unreliable witnesses in pursuit of the elusive facts of H.C. Earwicker's alleged sin. And what was that sin again of Finnegans Wake? It was sexual in nature, though aren't all human beings sexual in and by nature? The evidence building against HCE adds a dark salaciousness to the sexuality. Quote, but it oozed out in Dead Man's dark scenery court through cross-examination of the case-hardened testis, close quote. By the sounds of it, this case will be, to borrow a favorite phrase of police procedurals, not only a hard nut to crack, but a hard nut sack. This brings us back to the biggest sex scandal in Irish history that led to the downfall of politician Charles Stewart Parnell in the late 1800s. As I mentioned in episode 8, the scandal of Parnell falling for Catherine or Kitty O'Shea, then falling from political grace, is an eminently relatable tale because, as the Wake reminds us on virtually every page, humanity fell from grace the moment Eve and Adam were swayed by the snake and ate the forbidden fruit. And as Adeline Glasheen has shown, Parnell and the trials surrounding his affair with O'Shea pervade Finnegans Wake. As for Adam and Eve, it would be more accurate to say that it was Eve who fell for the forbidden fruit first and in turn brought Adam down with her. So the book of Genesis, in essence, scapegoats women for man's fall. That's precisely what happens in the trial of today's excerpt. Prosecutor leads witness to point finger at sinful women. We saw this scapegoating strategy before in the Strawberry Frolic of Chapter 3, which encourages us to chercher la femme, that is, look for the woman to blame. In the language of the Wake, woman merges with fire, cherchant la flamme, and also fans those flames, quote, femme, 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 femme. Similarly, in today's excerpt, the prosecutor loads his misogyny with suggestions of hellfire and the devil himself, or herself. It's no wonder that the 100-letter Thunderword with which he emphatically concludes his questioning is made up of various phonemes meaning whore. In a moment, we'll take a closer look at this Thunderword, the fourth in the novel, with a recap of the 3 that preceded it. We left off the previous episode with Crown Attorney P.C. Robort questioning a disheveled character named Festy King. Now a new witness takes the stand to provide, quote, remarkable evidence. He is identified not merely as an eyewitness, but as an, quote, eye, ear, nose, and throat witness, who, as you might expect of an ENT, lives in a medical district at the address, quote, Null Null Medical Square. He's also identified by the initials WP. Even Adeline Glasheen, in her thorough census of Finnegans Wake, has put an asterisk by her entry for WP and explains, quote, an asterisk means I don't know who somebody is. Our ENT might be a version of Joyce's friend Oliver St. John Gogarty, the model for Buck Mulligan and Ulysses, who was, among many things, an ENT. And or he might, as John Gordon suggests, be a reference to Oscar Wilde's father, also an eye and ear specialist, who lived at 2 Marion Square at the centre of Dublin's medical establishment. Our witness, WP, has had a little to drink in the morning, not unlike Tim Finnegan of the Finnegans Wake folk song, and he tells the court that he saw, and heard, and tasted, and smelled, as is his wont, a man known as Hyacinth O'Donnell committing some violence, though WP's account is questionable given how late and dark it was at the time. The rowdy courtroom gallery cries out for O'Donnell to take the stand, and he does. Who is O'Donnell? He's identified as a, quote, mixer, which strikes me as a characteristically Wakian fluid identity, and his name, as Glasheen points out, echoes that of John MacDonald, author of the account of the Parnell Commission that inspires the trial of today's excerpt. And the exchange between prosecutor and O'Donnell is inspired indeed, as the former mines the latter for evidence that might incriminate HCE. Our prosecutor is resourceful, clever, creative, at times seeming to go easy on the witness, at others setting traps, dropping hints, talking in code, changing tack, and ultimately leading the witness with question after question. So what was HCE's crime, his sin? Perhaps, as the Wake often suggests, it was original sin itself, partaking of the forbidden fruit in the Garden of Eden. As the prosecutor asks, quote, in the middle of the garth, then? To which O'Donnell responds, quote, that they mustn't touched it. From here, not unlike the OG tale of Genesis, prosecutor scapegoats women for the fall. He may not have a smoking gun for HCE, but at least our prosecutor's got someone to blame, culminating in his rabid 100-letter Thunderword. The 10 Thunderwords of Finnegans Wake are extraordinary, as is Richard Harte's delivery of them. Here, as promised, is a recap of the 3 preceding 100-letter Thunderwords for your listening pleasure. This is the first one on the opening page, built out of multilingual phonemes meaning, appropriately, thunder.
The fall. Ba del garata camino ron con blon toleron to on thon trova unans con to order on the knock. Of a once worn straight old par is retailed early in bed and later on life down through all Christian Minster 3.
Just as thunder here falls dramatically from the sky, so Tim Finnegan falls from his ladder. And just as Tim Finnegan falls, so too does Jarl van Hoother from his fortress at the conclusion of the Prank Queen fable, generating the second Thunderword, also comprised of phonemes for thunder.
Per quadros curum padro e docale grom greme gunda thromaton already did he fit it till he pumaluno canonna. And they all drank free. For one man in his armour was a fat match always for any girls under shirts.
The tale of the fall, as we discovered from the first Thunderword, is retold through the ages, and indeed the second Thunderword has told us again of the fall, this time of man falling to woman, male standing no chance against female, a phenomenon dating back to the mythological dawn of humanity when Eve tempted Adam and woman perverted man. The third Thunderword, combining the crash of a fallen glass with the clap of a crowd gathered to hear Hosty's salacious ballad with the crap the shit-talking Hosty is about to unload on HCE adds to our protagonist's moral fall. Here the multilingual phonemes all signify shit.
It's coming, it's brumming, the clip, the clop, all class clash, the click, clack, 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 class, clack, clop, as class, clack, batter, creppy, crotty, grata, semi, new, the bloody, cup of cut.
And the fourth Thunderword, which you'll soon hear in today's excerpt, leans viciously and ludicrously into the perceived culpability of woman in the continual fall of man. Following the Thunderword, we hear from a witness named Pegger Festi, who may be a transformation of Festi King, the first person to take the stand in our previous episode. Like Festi King before him, Pegger Festi appears to be a disheveled mess. Pegger sounds like beggar. It's also slang for hard drinker, and it's also Hebrew for corpse. Perhaps Pegger likes to drink himself stiff? In any event, here he provides laughable testimony resulting in, well, laughter from the courtroom. Now it's time for Richard's performance of James Joyce's Finnegans Wake, page 86, line 32 to page 92, line 5 of chapter 5. The performance was filmed and recorded at Tight Books on Queen Street West in Toronto on January 22nd, 2024, with a live audience.
Remarkable evidence was given. Anon, by an eye, ear, nose and throat witness, whom Wesleyan chapelgoer suspected of being a plain-clothes priest, W.P., situate at Null Medical Square, who upon letting down his rice and peas green cover disc, and having been sullenly cautioned against yawning while being grilled, smiled. He had had a one-bumper at parting from Mrs. Monroe in the morning, and stated to his solicitor under his most accents, God bless, that he slept with the bona fides and that he would be there to remember the filth of November, hat and airing, rowdy-o, which with the gibelows of Juno and the dates of old anxiety was gone, please the rainmaker, to descend within the ephemerides of profane history. Now one with tournay yet to slay and tomorrow, and one thing which would particularly strike a person of such sorely tried observational powers as Sam, him, and Moffat, though there's not the reason why. The striking thing about it that he was petrified to see, hear, taste and smell, as his time of night, how Hyacinth O'Donnell, B.A., described in the calendar as a mixer and word painter, with part of a civis pacem, Gael tact for dung fork. On the fair green at the hour of 24 o'clock sought, the Bull Cassidy of the Friedhofer, to sack, sock, stab and slaughter single-handed another two of the old kings, Gush McGale and Roran O'Crean Jr., both changelings, unlocalized, of no address and incommunicables, between him and whom, ever since Wallops before the Miss of Lewis, bad blood existed on the ground of the boar's trespass on the bull, or because he first parted his polar beaver hair in two ways, or because they were creep fox and grouse uppers over a nippy and a noveletta, or because they could not say knees, mutant ass, Meath. The litigants, he said, local congsmen and Donalds, kings of the Arons and the Darkies, kings of Mud and Tory, even the goat king of Killargman, were egged on by their supporters in the shape of better women with bold, strong hair of Cardiff a genuine ruddiness, waving crimson petties and screaming from Aesop's tower tops. There were cries from the thick sets in court and from the MacDublins on the Bahar and Breen of, "Mind the bag for Banagher mixer! Produce O'Donnell! Aye, exhibit his relics! Boo! Use the tongue mower! Divlip less!" But it oozed out in Dead Man's dark scenery court through cross-examination of the case-hardened testis that when and where that knife of knives the three-parted ambush was laid, roughly spouting round half hours twixt dusk and dawn, by Waterhouse's Middle European time, near stop and think, High Chief of Irons and only Adfall Tree and out the land. There was not as much light by the widowed moon as would dim a child's altar. The mixer, accordingly, was bluntly broached, and in the best basil to boot, as to whether he was one of those lucky cocks for whom the audible, visible, nossible, edible world existed. That he was only too cognitively, cogitably, and be sure of it, because living, loving, breathing, and sleeping morpho-molosopho pancreates, as he most significantly did. Whenever he thought, he heard, he saw, he felt, he made a bell. Clipper, 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 clipper. Whether he was practically sure, too, of his lugs and true his names in this king and blouseman business, that he was particularly so. Certified, as Cad could be lying, be the lonely I will. There was marbles of somebody, or quite, George Day's son, a satyr in weddings. And how did the green-eyed mister arrive at the B.A.? That it was like his Paul, a cross-grained trapper with morty odd oogs, off-lorated aries, inquiline nays, and a twitcherous mouth. He would be. Who could bid you out to a 10-yard full when a stalled? Bella a jobbler. Some major bore, too. He gwines. And with tumbler his legs, Reed up intimidated, Elmingham, Urchinwine, Rutter, Egbert, Cromwell, Odin, Maximus, Esme, Saxon, Isa, Bersinctorus, Ethelwolf, Ruprecht, Walla, Bentley, Osmond, Icer, Drosselman! Holy St. Eiffel, the very phoenix. It was Chudley Magnol once more between the Defedates and the dumb scene. The two child spies war praising him as at a Volog, but the renting of his rock was from the three wicked Vancouver as far as bent down at wits. Art thou sure? You bet it. Cumberland comes, one of the Oxman's thingabosses flood, and he had been refreshed by the founts of bounty playing There is a pain ale land in Long's gurgling barrel. A loss of Lord Edward and a lack of Sir Philip, as surgeon at shower down could suck more gargling bubbles out of the 5 lamps in Portland's praise. Gurgling in Mary's? As yours wouldn't, leaving his leaf time in Blackpool. But of course he could call himself 10 to, if he had time to. You but he could any time. When he pays, when in place. A stoker tempted by eavesdripping against the driver, who was a witness as well. Sacred Avatar, how the devil did they guess it? 2 dreamiums in one dromium. Yes, and no error. And both as like as a jewel of lentils. Precisely. So he was pelted out of the Coram Popular, was he? Be the powers that be, he was. The prince in principle should not expose his person. Ch04. Rusque man, camarade. Sooner Galwegian, he would say. Not unintoxicated, fair witness. Drunk as a bishop. Asked her whether she minded whether he smuked. Not if he barks to the phlegms, and then to ejaculations to his cross-canal arm, Casa. It was coarser and coarser and coarser again. The gracious miss was we no doubt sensible how yellow-watty on the forks was altered. That she assuredly was, o'dowed me not. As to his religion, if any, it was the see a Sunday sort. Exactly what he meant by a pederast prig. Be Jacobs, just a gent who played his Lent. And if middle-class Portavers was a usual beast, by night as useful as a vomit to a sure man. If he had Ragnarized their courts-martials, to that day and days he had, Lindonderry, Cookerskilly, Spelmigart without a gate. Hardly a drop. The grazing rights, Mrs. Magistra Martinetta, expired with the expiry of the god's sire, if they were not mistaken. That he exactly could not tell the worshipables, but his mother and waiters had the recipes for the price of the coffin, and that he was there to tell them that herself was a velocipede who could tell them Kit-Kat. Mandarin tongue and a poundering jaw. Father order about the mathers of pronunciation. Distributory endings, and we recommends. Quare hercum? No answer. Ande gentium fet? No. Are you not dazzling on the age of a volcano? Sir, I am deed. And hold of him. He was intended to study Pulu. Which was meant in a short of 2 shifts, Magahamed or up thin 3-headed ladder. That a head and thighs under a bush at the sunface would bait a serpent to a mill race through the heather. Amber-coloured deaf-dumb ethnic fort, perhaps? Sure, and glomp Hansky total phasing as well. Hokey Jasons, then, in a PG Jesus? Oh, and a pontiff's order as sure as there's an ital on attack, as a golly bit of joss, leely and taluli. But why this hank-out chaff, and whence this second tone, son yet son? He had the cow-taw in his books as flay of face. So this, that solicitress, set nods evens at defiance, took the loud from labour writer. You want this place, Tob, Dilk and Halley. Not been greatly in love with the game. and changing the vendors from the King's Head to the Republican's Arms, as to the pugnacities of Vinks from Flagfall to Antipulse during the frays round Father Time's Beckside, and the regions of the Plantzone reigning, with the Skiddy Stars and the Mark and Windup, how they appealed to him then. But that it was Wildfire's night on all the Betty Gallaghers, McMichael's sword streaking shreks through the Wilkinses, and Neck and Nicholas's toasting forks pricking prongs up the tunny bladders. Let there be fight. And there was. Fought. On the sight of the angels, you said. Guinea's gap, he said, between what they said and the pussy kitties. In the middle of the garth, then. That they mustn't touched it. The devoted couple were only two dissipated solicitors on the job of the unfortunate class on Saturn Mountain Fort. That was about it, Joe. And Camillus then said to Gemellus, I should know you perfectly. And then Gemellus then said to Camillus, yes, your brother? Absolutely. And it was all about that, egregious sir. About that, and the other. If he was not alluding to the whole of the wall, that he was when he was not alluding to the whole of the woman. Briefly, how such begin all finally struck him now, like the crack that broke the bank in Multifarnham. Whether he fell in with what they meant, curse that he suppoxed he did, Tos Taurus, Tomars Tom, the rudest is rotter in robuctum, surtopical and subhuman, if it was, in Yapanese language, bad clap. Ooh, hogs and oars with Rian O'Kelly, to put it tertially, we wrong? Shocking. Such as Torley pierced our realies that he might never that night, Treely and Rurley. Glad you foul Mecklenburg, who a whore, a scort, a strump, a born, and any cock, sapper, tipper, tapper, topper, stripper, putanack, eh? You have it all right. Medri chonoin quish. But a new complexion was put upon the matter when to the perplexedly uncondemnatory bench, whereon Punic judgeship strove with penal law, the senior king of all, Pegger Festi, as soon as the outer layer of stuckamuck had been removed at the request of a few live jurors, declared in a loud burst of poesy through his Brythonic interpreter on his oath, with Peshmisha as for a Beremin Christmas. Whereas, take notice be the relics of the bones of the swordy buccal that was A.B. Cleopatra, and Sow, Princess of Parkers, afore God and all their honours, and King's Commons that, what he would swear to the tyranny of Dundalkans or any other tyranny, if live Thurkels followed him about, sure that was no steal, and that, nevertheless, what was deposited from that bold-eared, big-nosed, naving Guthrum, he did not fire a stone either before or after he was born, down and up to that time. And incidentalising, that they might talk about McCarthy, or they might walk to Ballastarty, or they might join the neighbour party and come on to Portafield. This the sock-dollager had the neck to endorse with the head bowed on him over his out-turned nor'easter by protesting to his lip-readers with a just-been clean bare-facedness, a beam of moonlight's hope, in the same Trelawney what he would impart, please, bench, to the Lord Joseph and the gentlemen in juries and the four masters who've been all those yarns yearning for that good one about why he left Dublin, that Amrika Baker Codlin Doom, as an Englishman, was as good as any cantonattle. If he was to perish by the market stake before the Dermot of the Mon, he's good, never has to see light or sight of this world, or the other world, or any either world, of Tiernan. As true as he was there in that jack-a-box that minute, or win, no thanks to yous, the inexhaustible wassail-horn, Todovisky, bosh the health of the wealth of the end-known abgod of the fire of the moving way of the ox, with his heroes in war horror, if ever in all his exchequered career he up or lave a chancery hand to take or throw the sign of a mortal stick or stone at man, Yolam or Salvation Army either before or after being baptized down to that most holy and every blessed hour, here upon the half-kneed castle knockers attempting cathogishly to lift this holy mess to pause and make the sign of the Roman Gohilic fix. Zoroti Zorkston is excited the lot of a broken neck through Castilian, into which the whole audience perseguired and pursued him. Hola, Pedrida, out broke much elactors from owners in the hall. Ha! which, under the mollification of Methagan, the testifier reluctingly, but with ever so ladylike indecorum, joined. Ha.
That was Richard Harte reading pages 86 to 92 of Chapter 4 from Finnegans Wake, recorded live at Type Books on Queen Street West in Toronto on January 22nd, 2024. Join us for episode 19 in a fortnight when Richard continues Chapter 4 of Finnegans Wake. In the meantime, to be sure you don't miss the episode, why not follow or subscribe to this podcast? For more on One Little Goat's Finnegans Wake project, including transcripts of this podcast and the complete films of Chapters 1 and 2, visit our website at onelittlegoat.org. And to hear about upcoming performances and screenings, please join our mailing list, also on our website. One Little Goat Theatre Company is a non-profit, artist-driven registered charity in the United States and Canada that depends on donations from individuals to make our productions, including this one, possible. If you're able, please make a tax-deductible donation through our website, www.onelittlegoat.org. Finnegans Wake is made possible by friends of One Little Goat Theatre Company and the Emigrant Support Programme of the Government of Ireland. Thank you for your support. And thank you to the artists for this episode: Richard Harte, sound by William Bembridge, stage management by Sandi Becker, directed by yours truly, Adam Seelig. A big thanks to Claire Foster and the staff and owners of Type Books, as well as to our wonderful live audience. Thank you to everyone at the Irish Consulate in Toronto, and thank you to Production Consultants Cathy Murphy, Andrew Moodieand Shai Rotbard-Seelig. Thank you for listening.